Hi, and welcome back to the Ruby Tuesday. My name's Ruben, and this is my review for Netflix's new series. I don't know if it's a limited series. I think there's probably going to be more, but it's a contained story. It's called Trigger. It's a new South Korean drama action extravaganza, and I'm here to talk about all 10 episodes which I've seen. It's quite a big watch, and each episode is about 40 to 45 minutes, so quite a lengthy watch. So I'm here to talk about whether it's worth investing your time in this or you should steer clear. Let's jump in. An action thriller drama about two men who are trying to solve the mess after firearms is suddenly widely available in South Korea, which used to be a gun free country through an unknown source. The thing that is very evident in South Korean drama that we've had on Netflix over the last probably 5 to 10 years is that bullying is an epidemic. I mean, it is an epidemic around the world, but throughout my reviews that I've done for quite a few years now, the question I always ask when I'm reviewing these dramas from South Korea is bullying really as bad as that? As like, it comes to torture, mental and physical? And the answer is 99% always yes, it is as bad as that. And so it's one of those series where you reflect against what's happening in society as entertainment media reflects is a reflection to us. So, World War II, there were a bunch of movies that were reflecting what was happening at that time. It's the same with music when a bunch of albums come out as really an escape of depression, or comedian commits suicide, and giving all these kind of clues as to what's happening. It's often a place for us to kind of stand as society and look back and go, do we need to do something about this? This series does that, but gives us a what if. This series takes that theme and then adds a doubling down of what happens if we introduce guns to a country that is dealing with bullying in all forms, it seems, through all walks of life. People are triggered, which is why the series is called Trigger. So if you take a person and you bombard them with mental anguish, physical abuse consistently, and they have no means to break away. You're talking about school bullying that is consistently just bullying them, beating them, taking their money, forcing them to do things that degrade them consistently. And then you take people in their workplaces and you do the same thing. And you introduce firearms and you specifically target people who are about to break, that are given the opportunity, would go, yeah, okay, you've pushed me too far. And so this series is that. Throughout 10 episodes, we get to see people that are targeted with guns. They're given guns free of charge, and seeing the moral dilemma that they are placed in as they start grappling with the choice of, do I basically lose my life as well as take those that have been causing me so physical harm? The series is going to fill you with emotions that will make you angry and make you think on a moral. What would you do in their places when pushed to such extremes? Would you take a gun and take people out? It showcases what could happen. And let me just say, if you are of a person that's been involved in a shooting of some kind, of a massacre of some kind, there are a couple of scenes in here that are very dark that they don't shy away from. The action is great in this when we're doing fight scenes choreographed. That works well. The gore and the blood, it's all believable. It's showcased in a way that we get to see the action rather than fast, quick cutting. And we get to see how people control people through different mediums. But let me just give you a word of warning that there are some brutal scenes in here that if you, in your life, have been affected by or know someone, this might hit harder than you were expecting. Putting all the really kind of darkness aside, what this series does really well is it harkens back to stories like Death Note or Heat, when you were taking great minds trying to battle against each other, a battle of wits, trying to always outmaneuver each other. That is what is really fun to watch within this series. Really intense throughout the series. And I do feel like the series thought that we wouldn't have guessed what was going on with one particular character, and I don't think that's the case. Most people will watch this and go, it's this person, I bet it's they're doing this. But you don't mind that it's this. It feels a little bit like Heat. You know, if you think about Al Pacino and Robert De Niro sitting down at the table, having that sort of battle of wits throughout the movie, it feels a bit like that, as well as Death Note. You know, we've got Al and Light all really doing that battle of wits, who can outmaneuver who. That works well in this series. It does go off in a little bit of tangents on occasion with some storylines that kind of thread into the main arc, and it does flow quite well, but it does feel like it's sometimes they're going on threads that push the runtime or the length of the series to not really have it as quite finely tuned as it could have been. But that's the only negativity I could take from this, because the acting is phenomenal. The voice casting, if you're listening dubbing, is fine, but I would recommend watching it in the original. That action that we get is so brutal, but it's used sparingly for when's necessary. It's not an action heavy story for the sake of doing action. It's always at a pacing. The intensity is there because people are triggered and they're about to do horrific things, and it's whether the police can intervene. And we see peoples on both walks of life, from those that are criminals to those that are police, and to everyday walks of life. And it balances, showing us what would trigger a person, what makes police a good police officer, and what makes a good criminal, and where those lifestyles change, making them become who they are. Balancing all of that in a story that's really well acted and performed in an intensity that is a wild ride the whole way through. There were so many times when I was holding my breath. There's so many times I was like, oh my gosh, I wish you guys could see what I could see. Really feeling the emotions and the intensity of what's going on. Number of times I felt my heart in my throat emotionally, because the stuff was happening to characters that I didn't want to happen to certain characters. People were forced into situations that I really liked and was hoping, you see people be pushed so far and you want them to get justice, but you also know that the justice that they're about to get is going to ruin their lives. It plays with that moral really well. So I'm going to give this 4.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5. I think this is definitely one to put on your list, bearing in mind how dark and intense it can be with those themes. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you are watching at the moment, what's really kind of piqued your interest that's new, that's just come out. What is your favorite Korean series of 2025 so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.